Ahí va a llegar el gol del Arsenal. Ozil. Marca Mesut Ozil.
That is some absolutely world-class sitting down there, staying at home, just sitting down. Oh, look, there he goes. He's eating his fourth sandwich of the day. This is remarkable.
This is Arsecast Extra.
Hello and welcome to another Arsecast Extra, as always, with James from Goalkeeper. James, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you too. An unconventional Sunday Arsecast Extra for us this week.
It is. It's weird recording on a Sunday. I feel like I should be watching football while we're talking so I can go, ooh, at things that are happening, but I don't even know who's playing. I watched the end there just a minute ago of Leicester and Leeds. And, that was a really nice breakaway goal that Leeds scored to seal the game. So are Leicester doing their thing? Are they doing their collapsio? Is that what's happening?
Perhaps. It seems that way. I mean, West Ham are playing Liverpool as we speak.
Right.
I guess we want a Liverpool win there. West Ham, one of the teams that we're sort of chasing, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it's those weird Sundays as well, isn't it? Where they stretch out the games, and I'm glad it's Tottenham's turn to be in that awful 7:15 Sunday night spot that we had to make do with for quite some time.
Oh, who are they playing?
They're playing Brighton away, so all my hopes and dreams are on a Danny Welbeck winner in that one. Danny
Welbeck or our favourite Neil Maupay. You know, we like that guy a lot.
We've always liked him. We've never had a bad word to say about him. That's what I'll add on that.
So look, let's keep fingers crossed for that anyway, because, you know, I believe they were terrible against Liverpool the other night, even though I didn't see it. But lots of people were talking.
Why would you watch
that.
them? They're a Jose Mourinho team.
Well, this is exactly it. You know, I try and avoid Tottenham for the most part anyway.
True.
You know, unless it's absolutely impossible to avoid watching them, I don't. So we are going to talk about a 0-0 draw with Manchester United yesterday. I'm watching Liverpool here while we're talking as well. Someone just whacked the ball over. Wijnaldum, I think. I'll make funny noises. I'll make noises if anything happens. But I am paying attention, I promise. So, 0-0 draw with Manchester United. Your thoughts just generally on the result itself before we get into the nuts and bolts of it. I think it was probably, in the circumstances, a fair result. Like, if it had been 1-1, nobody would have argued either, I don't think.
No. I mean, my searing analysis is that we could have won and they could have won. And I guess in a 0-0 draw, that's often the case. But chances at both ends. I think I was pretty content with the result and quite encouraged by the performance, given the absentees. I really, when that starting lineup came out, I sort of, I took a big gulp and thought, I'm suddenly a lot less confident about this one than I was, because we were missing some really, really important players.
Well, that's true. I mean, I wasn't that hopeful about Tierney in the sense that the pre-game fitness update said they're assessing him. But I wasn't expecting, there was nothing about Bukayo Saka in there. So that was a bit of a blow. I also wasn't expecting Aubameyang either. So it wasn't like that was a surprise or Tierney was a surprise, but Saka being out as well, given how well he's been playing of late, that was a real kick in the arse. And when you think about what that game might have been like with those three guys in our team, for me, obviously it's disappointing that they weren't there, but in some weird way, it's kind of encouraging to think that had they been there, I think we would have made life an awful lot more difficult for Manchester United.
Yeah, I mean, I think with those players, we probably win that game. I really do. And yeah, Tierney, I mean, he had taken some part in training the previous day, so I thought there was a chance that he'd play. Obviously, he's such a big outlet for us on that side. And Saka, it was kind of a reminder to me that he is mortal, that he has some kind of fallibility because and also some vulnerability, because I think we have become so reliant on him and so accustomed to him playing so many minutes at quite a young age still. Maybe I had started to slightly take that for granted.
They did say it was a precaution that he was left out, and I think when the team comes out and people say, well, Tierney was in training, why isn't he playing? And, there was no mention of a Saka injury. I think what I'm looking at in this situation is, and we've talked about it, is the fact that we made a big mistake with Thomas Partey. Bringing him back and risking him for a short-term gain in the North London derby, which if it had paid off and we'd won the game or got a result, maybe you could justify it. But, given what happened and everything else, I'm looking at these decisions now. I'm looking at Tierney not being rushed back, even if he is taking part in full training. I'm looking at Saka. Ceballos is another one as well who's had an injury and was back in full training but wasn't risked for this game. I'm looking at these decisions, and it's hard not to think that they have been informed by what happened to Partey. And if that is the case, then I'm pleased that we are taking, or capable of taking, a sensible / cautious / medium-term view on player fitness. Arteta's talked about it a lot, hasn't he? The demands on the players and everything else. So if you're articulating your concerns publicly about how difficult it is for players to cope with this schedule and everything else, you can't ask them to play at 70% or 80% if there's a risk that they might exacerbate the injuries they have.
Absolutely. And I think squad management is going to be one of the biggest tests that faces all Premier League managers in the second half of this season. There are a lot of games to pack in, especially if you're competing on more than one front. I mean, we are 2 weeks away today from a spell where we face Leeds, Benfica, Manchester City, Benfica, Leicester in less than a fortnight.
Wow.
And those are all big games where a lot of players are going to be asked to play, a lot of minutes. And I think anything we can do to kind of manage the squad at this point ahead of that is probably smart and probably sensible. But listen, the fan in me looked at our lineup without Saka, without Tierney, without Aubameyang, whether it was expected or not, and was, I have to admit, a little concerned.
Yeah, I was too. I think it's perfectly normal and reasonable to be concerned. Particularly with Saka, it wasn't necessarily so much Tierney and Aubameyang, because I think most people kind of knew that they were long shots for this game anyway. But Saka, I think, was the real blow. In that he has been just so effective and he combines so well with Smith Rowe and everything else. And yeah, look, my confidence was a little bit dented by it. So, I mean, are you encouraged by the fact that we still, without them, had 17 attempts on goal? We did have chances to score. We could have done better with some of them. We were a little unlucky with some others. It was quite one of the problem we had, I think, in that bad spell was just not creating enough shooting opportunities. That was the biggest problem that we had. So even without those three players who've been so important and in some ways fundamental to how well we attack, that we were still able to fashion opportunities and shooting opportunities. I know some were a little speculative, but we've been looking for the team to take more shots. They're taking more shots on a consistent basis.
Absolutely. That was the stat that jumped out at me the most after the game. I mean, to finish a match with Manchester United with 17 attempts, I know they had plenty of attempts too.
14.
But, we had a really good goal-scoring opportunities in this game, and I think we looked a threat. And, clearly we grew into this game, I think. As has tended to be the case recently under Mikel Arteta, we were stronger sort of immediately after half-time than we had been before it. But I think there was probably a sort of slight sense of Arsenal kind of easing themselves in and realising, actually, we can absolutely go toe-to-toe with this Man United team. And I think despite the fact that they're kind of nominally in the title race, I don't think this United team are anything particularly special. And I think we saw some of that during this game.
I think so too. And one of the things, or one of the features of Manchester United's season has been the ability to win games when they're not playing particularly well. I think Neville said that on the commentary, that you look at them and you think, what did he call them? I said there was a particular phrase, no hopers, or I can't remember what it was, but like a bunch of strangers or something, I think he said. And then all of a sudden, somebody, whether it's Rashford or it's Fernandes or somebody, just sort of sparks into life and gets them a goal, not necessarily against the run of play, but enough to win a game, you know? So there was always that threat from United. I know exactly what you're saying, but they do have some quality there in their side.
And I mean, the attacking lineup that they kind of finished with, you know, it is an impressive roll call. And I think to a certain extent, we, in the first half, were doing to United what they've done to teams quite effectively this season. You know, they've been very dangerous on the counter-attack. And I thought Arsenal showed that they could do that with people like Smith Rowe and Pepe, you know, breaking the lines, getting beyond their men, looking a threat. I thought that was really positive and really encouraging. I mean, you know, it's always kind of tricky with a draw. People will take it different ways, take different things out of it. But I think that this was another step in the right direction for this Arsenal team. I think just the fact that we played like this without players who are so integral to what we do is a really good sign. Yes,
I agree with that. What did you make of the way United set up with Pogba over on the left and sort of... You know, one of the things, I don't know, are they targeting Bellerin or what was it? I think Bellerin dealt with him pretty well, to be honest. But
he's done it before for them. We've seen it a little bit this season. I mean, Pogba's one of those players who, you know, I think they've kind of struggled to fit into the team in different systems, different shapes, playing free from the left. It's worked for them on occasion. Injury changed it, didn't it? McTominay went off and then he went deeper into midfield. I don't know if they were looking at Bellerin specifically. I mean, it would have been interesting, wouldn't it? Do you think if Tierney had been fit, do you think we were at a point where Cedric was giving Bellerin a run for his money? I've seen that debated online. Certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said it here, didn't we, the other day, that if Tierney was fit and Cedric got the call at right back, I don't think Hector could have been, too unhappy about it. I think he played okay against United. He created that really good chance for Pepe, which he put just wide. Well, created a really good chance, but he made the chance for Pepe, who then made it, almost a goal with that shot that went wide. And he did his defensive work as well. You know, there were interceptions and clearances, so I think he did pretty well. But I think what's important, and I think maybe we said this too, is that we have competition on both sides. You know, you want Cedric and Bellerin competing together. You don't want Cedric and Bellerin or Cedric competing with Bellerin and Tierney, if you like. I don't think that's the ideal situation. Maybe that's something we'll address in the market before it closes on Monday night. We'll have maybe a question about that a bit later on. But, I've lost my train of thought here entirely. What were we talking about? Oh, Cedric and fullbacks and things like that. So, Pogba on the left. I mean, I think another thing to point out is that we, when you think back to the game against United at Old Trafford, one of the reasons we were so good and had such an impressive performance that day was Thomas Partey and how good he was on the day. And maybe it's not encouraging, but, he wasn't as good yesterday as he was in that game or in some of his previous games. I think there was he got caught on the ball a number of times, which is kind of uncharacteristic for him. So, in spite of some carelessness in midfield from him, we still managed to go toe-to-toe, if you like, or hold our own against United.
Yeah, and he was quite upfront about that. He did a post-match interview with the club, which they put out today. I saw on, I think, their Instagram channel, where he kind of admitted, look, this was a really mixed performance from me. And I do wonder if maybe he slightly felt that weight of responsibility, having been so important at Old Trafford. Was he almost kind of trying to do a little bit too much? But it wasn't his best game. But I think what's encouraging is that, this was we've not been playing in this fashion, in this system for too long. But even without some key individual personnel, a lot of things still functioned. A lot of things still worked. And I think that will be really satisfying to Mikel Arteta, even if, as I say, I think it did take us, certainly longer than United to kind of get started. Yeah,
I mean, that spell at the start of the second half was easily our best, wasn't it? Because when you think about the first half and some of the incidents, there was the Leno save from Fred, which was absolutely brilliant. Where else did we have? Was
Rashford had that chance where the ball kind of broke to him and
Leno came out.
Leno came out, but I think Rashford really sort of dallied on it. I don't know if he was waiting for some contact or whatever. The ball was kind of there to be hit. He didn't take it. That was quite a good opportunity for them as well. There was the chance...
Oh, there was Fernandes got inside David Luiz and curled one wide of the far post.
Right.
I think as well, there was a really interesting... I mean, Gabriel Martinelli started... Didn't do a huge amount from an attacking perspective, but there was a 60 seconds or 90 seconds. I think it all happened pretty quickly where he took the ball, came inside and almost created a really good chance for Lacazette, only for it to curl away. And then at the other end, a really brilliant piece of last-ditch defending because I think it was Rashford again who was free at the back post. And Martinelli spotted the pass or the potential pass from Pogba, got back and made a really good header. I mean, he came off at half-time and Mikel Arteta said it was tactical.
I assumed, I must say, in the ground that it was an injury because... like you say, I think Martinelli had worked really hard. He had just had that kind of brilliant 60 seconds where he played that curling and swinging pass and made the defensive contribution. And also, I guess, because like everyone watching, I was kind of like, why is Willian coming on? I assumed there must have been a physical problem, but Arteta was pretty insistent that wasn't the case, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean... Did Willian... I don't want to have the Willian conversation again because actually, as disheartened and everything as I was to see him come on, because it's just not what I ever want to see, he wasn't bad, and that's not to sort of... I mean... That's not even by the standards he set this season. I just don't think he was bad on the night. He made that chance for Pepe. He did have a really good chance himself, and that was disappointing.
Listen, when he came on at half-time, I don't know what it is in me, the sort of devil's advocate or whatever it is. I put a bet on Willian to score the next goal in the game. And so when that ball... I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I don't know if you're allowed to bet if you're at the game live. I'm sure you are. Anyway, you're not supposed to if you're working. But anyway, when that ball dropped to him... on the, whatever it was, 8 yards out, I obviously thought, quid's in here. I'm about to look like a genius. I'll post the screenshot. Everyone will say, James, how did you know? So it was proper head in my hands stuff. At that
sure.
Yeah. I mean, some will say that was throwing my money away. I just had a feeling. I just thought it's so... Do you know when it's like, it's so bad and it feels so wrong that he's come on? I just kind of thought, sod's law, something positive will happen. I guess it did in a way, in that he was sort of a bit better than he usually is. But I mean, what a chance to really kind of improve his standing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a moment where there could have been a measure of redemption. I'm not saying that would have been like...
Well, it could have been the start of something.
Yeah, potentially, and look, I think he really has to do better in that position, but he did 60 seconds later make a good chance for Pepe. And only for the gigantic fucking hippo legs of Harry Maguire. I think that would have been a goal because, he caught it well and it was going bottom corner. So
that's Pepe's position, I think. He's so... I remember so many goals he scored for Lille and a couple for Arsenal from that position where it's tucked back from the left.
Yeah.
And he just kind of hangs
scored
back.
One against United in sort of similar...
Yeah, quite similar shape to the move, definitely, and the finish. And I think that was this fixture pretty much a year ago, right?
Yeah.
The first Arteta win.
Yeah.
I do think on Willian, I think that's a really good block as well from Wan-Bissaka. But look, it's a good chance.
Yeah, his first touch wasn't good, and I think the attempt, the shot itself was really tame. That was a guy who doesn't have any confidence whatsoever in front of goal, on the pitch, on his legs, standing up, breathing.
I saw some people say he should hit it left foot, but I remember the one against Newcastle where he had a really good chance in exactly the same spot, hit it left footed, and it went about 15 yards over the bar.
Yeah.
So I was happy he went with the right, but it wasn't to be. But like you say, I think I tried to really work out what it was about Martinelli that made Arteta make that change. During the game, I could hear Arteta and Granit Xhaka and some of the other players telling Martinelli to play higher.
Right.
They were constantly saying higher, higher to him. And I do wonder if, in his sort of eagerness to get involved, maybe they felt like he was kind of, not offering the threat in behind that he might have done. It must be a case of him just sort of not really filling the role tactically in the way Arteta envisioned. But it was difficult to understand. I mean, it's one of those where, like, Arsenal improved, therefore the manager got it right. But I'm still slightly scratching my head at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say we improved. Whether that improvement was because Willian was on the pitch ahead of Martinelli, I think that's a debate that could be had that I'm not interested in having. I don't know that you could really join those dots together. It's not to say Willian was bad either, but yeah, I don't think it was like everyone went, whoa, Willian's on, let's play better, or Willian has inspired us to play better. I think it was the typical post-halftime burst that we get, whatever we're taking in the halftime oranges,
Absolutely, yeah. It seems to be working. Those jelly babies really, effective.
Have some of them before the game, guys. Try
that would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be nice. By the way, we didn't talk about something in the first half that I meant to talk about, which was the Bruno Fernandes incident.
Yes. Well, look, I know that lots of people seem to like Bruno Fernandes.
Lots of cunts.
But I really don't like him at all. I don't like him.
A very unlikable presence, I have to say. In the flesh, I spent quite a lot of time watching him, and he's got a lot of needle about him. I was already annoyed at him for sort of seemingly improving Manchester United halfway through last season, and the freakish regularity with which he's able to take penalty kicks. But yeah, there's something pretty unpleasant about him, and it's kind of absurd, isn't it, that you can review a situation like the Granit Xhaka one and not be able to give him a yellow card in that scenario.
Well, I mean, I think it's borderline red card, to be honest.
So do I, but I think even if you think it's not, to give him nothing seems completely absurd.
I agree. I think he, like I said on the blog, that is 100% in the, if that was Granit Xhaka making that challenge zone, then it's a red card.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
but it's quite nice to have a kind of bête noire, isn't it? It's nice to have
pantomime
a player.
villain.
Yeah, I think so. It's nice to have someone to hate, and I'm very much happy to chalk him up on my list.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, look, there are a few things that he was involved in. Obviously, the incident with Cedric early on, where he pretended like he got really hit in the face, and the referee took out his yellow card very quickly for Cedric, which I think was a little bit harsh. And then there was the incident just before halftime where he got the free kick that Luiz blocked with his head and then did the old fist pump thing, etc., etc. But I mean, I don't really know how that's a free kick. He took a shot, followed through on Partey, who was coming in to block it, and then went down like he'd been absolutely poleaxed again.
But you've got to remember, this man's entire footballing pedigree is based upon set pieces. So he has to do all he can to win those free kicks.
Pieces,
Nothing's going to happen for him from open play. And there was a lot going on between him and Cedric. I mean, obviously they've been, I think, international teammates in the past, but no love lost there, certainly.
No, I mean, and he does have one of those faces as well. He's got
one of those faces. I agree. So I quite relish the opportunity to feel that bit of enmity. So yeah, that was a first half incident I forgot. After the Willian and Pepe chance in quick succession, I think the next big chance of the game was the one that fell to Edson Cavani, which I think Leno got a touch on. Remember that he sort of toe poked wide.
Oh yeah, when was it? That was a bit later on, was it? Was that in the first half or the second half?
No, we're into the second now.
We're into the second. I'm looking at the live blog to see what happens. There was the Willian chance, there was the Pepe chance. Just wide, that's right, yeah, Cavani. It looked like it was Cedric. The replays at first showed it was maybe, they thought it was Luiz and then it was Cedric, but it was Cavani who put it just wide. And did Leno make a save on that?
I don't know. Well, they gave a corner, so something happened, and I think that maybe it touched Leno on the way through, but I don't know how much he knew about it.
I mean, both of his were just wide, weren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, we've got quite. I seem to feel like we've had pretty good fortune with Edinson Cavani. Well, there was a game at the Emirates where he was pretty dangerous and maybe scored a couple, but I remember us going to Paris and him missing an absolute handful of chances.
Yeah. I remember
1-1,
that.
I think Alexis Sanchez scored maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I remember I couldn't believe how many great opportunities he fashioned sort of through his movement, and yet he conspired to miss them. He's that kind of Aubameyang type striker where it's all about how many chances they get, you know, because he's got such good movement. But I mean, this was, you know, if it's a meter the other way, it's in the bottom corner. But it was a bit of a heart in mouth moment, and I think probably they had the better chances in that and the other one he had, albeit at a slightly tricky height. I
think so. In terms of from open play anyway. I mean, the Pepe one that Bellerin made was really close as well. I mean, it reminded me of the goal that he scored against Sheffield United. It was from that kind of position. But then there was the free kick from Lacazette, which, you know, De Gea was beating all ends up. And I think in some ways the quickness of the free kick meant that there was no Arsenal player in there to you know, follow in and maybe get on the rebound. But that was really close. I mean, our set pieces were a little frustrating at times, weren't they? In that Lacazette did that with the free kick. There was another one from the right-hand side, and we let Pepe take it rather than curl it in with a right footer. Cedric had one over the bar, and it was reminiscent of the Pepe free kick, which frustrated us last week. Do you remember? Was it was in the cup game against Southampton, where it's sort of that area where you go, okay, look, get it into the danger area if you like, but put it in at a decent height. Don't put it over the bar from there. Get it on target, you know.
Kind of incredible as well, and tells you something about how low his confidence is, that Willian, I think, even walked away from that. He wasn't even in the conversation, to be honest, given his pedigree with set pieces. There was one free kick in the first half which Cedric did take, which Luiz got on at the back post and sort of nodded it back across goal. That was cut out, but that was nearly something that came from a dead ball. But other than that, we weren't particularly productive. I'm just trying to think of any other particular chances we had in the game.
Well, there was a Smith Rowe chance. Smith Rowe had a shot which
that was
De Gea saved.
Strike, good contact.
You know, and there was actually a moment in the first half which I think, when you look back on it, could be seen as an opportunity missed, which is when Lacazette took the ball on and had a shot from about 25 yards.
There were options,
Yeah, Martinelli in particular, inside left of him was a really good option. If he'd made that pass, Martinelli was clean through on goal. I know when you're a striker and it opens up and you've got a sight of goal, you can, you know, feel justified in having a pop, you know. But I think when you look back on that one, that was one which kind of demanded a pass. So.
Yeah. And then, of course, the late kind of swivel volley from Cavani, which would have been an absolute sickener, to be honest, to lose it at that point.
It really would. It really would. Like, in fairness to him, it was slightly behind him, and he did well to sort of hook it towards goal. But, you know, if that had been on target, Leno was beaten. So, I mean, look, sometimes you need a bit of luck. You just do. You can defend as well as you can defend, and you know, for moments like that, like a few weeks ago, that probably would have gone in. You know that way.
Yeah, it really does feel that way.
Yeah,
you know, this feels like a game we certainly would have lost. Although, you know, I just don't think a few weeks ago we would have attacked the game in the way that we did. I don't think we would have created the opportunities that we did.
Yeah, and I think as well the fact that you are actually attacking more is a help for your defence. It does help your defence. I mean, is there a correlation between the increased attacking prowess we have and the fact that in 7 league games we've conceded just 2 goals? You know, and it's not like we were conceding a load of goals anyway during that run when we were losing games and what have you. We weren't conceding like 3-4 goals a game. We just weren't scoring any. I mean, that was the big issue, was we weren't scoring. So, I think you can draw a line between the fact that we are better from an attacking perspective and now better and improved from a defensive viewpoint as well.
Yeah, and I think as well satisfaction to be drawn from the fact that, a bit like going forward, the system was working kind of irrespective of personnel. In that run of good clean sheets and decent defending, we've changed up that back four quite a fair bit.
Yeah.
But there's been a measure of consistency nonetheless. So that's very, very encouraging. And I think, we're entering into a run of fixtures now which are going to tell us a lot more about this team and where we might finish and how we might fare in the second half of the season. So I think it was really important to not lose this game, to keep that momentum going. And as we welcome more players back soon, I think we'll be in a strong position. We also saw our new signing, didn't we, briefly?
We
Martin
did.
Odegaard.
Briefly. I did enjoy, I think I've got one here. It's from the Discord from Espen SKN, who says, it's not a question, but Martin Odegaard won the man of the match by the viewers in Norway. He got something like 40% of the vote. By half time, he was in second place and he hadn't even come onto the pitch yet. So fair play to the Norwegian viewers there.
Yeah, and he looked, well, you can see, some players you can see, they've just got a good touch, right? And you could see that with him straight away.
I mean, he didn't really have a great deal to do or didn't get involved a great deal, but, it was nice to be able to bring him on and obviously get the debut out of the way, if you like. And, it'll be interesting to see how he job shares with Emile Smith-Rowe in the short term, because, the schedule, and people might roll their eyes a little bit about the schedule, but we're playing again on Tuesday. A big game away from home, so it feels like, at this point, I know when team selections come out and everyone goes, oh my God, what's he done that for? And I could see, like, even in the initial reaction to the team for the United game was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's left Saka out, as if that was like something he would do by choice. You know what I mean? I think every team selection we see now, as difficult as some of the decisions might be to palate, they're being made because of the schedule, because of the injuries, because we're being sensible, because we're perhaps protecting people from, making injuries worse or what have you, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, we almost shouldn't be allowed to judge the team selections until kind of 4 or 5 days later, almost after we've played the next game. Then we can give them proper context, because I do think they're being made with kind of the physical dimension in mind a lot of the time. But you make a good point on sort of how will we dovetail or rotate Smith-Rowe and Odegaard. I think even yesterday you could see subtle differences in the way they play. While Smith-Rowe, he really does have that drive to kind of run in behind the defence, to really, make those diagonal runs and drag people out of position. You could see yesterday, Odegaard, he's more a guy who wanted to drop deep into the midfield. He wants runners in front of him so he can get his head up and play a pass. So, there will be horses for courses. There'll be times where we need one and times where we need the other, I'm sure. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, taking 4 points from 6 from Manchester United over the course of the season is not to be sniffed at, I don't think, If it was the other way around... Would have been nice to do the double, but...
it would have been. But look, we have to accept that there are going to be some ups and downs. There are going to be some games that don't quite go our way. And like, it's the width of a crossbar that doesn't win it for us, in the same way that it was the width of a post that didn't win it for Manchester United.
Absolutely,
So, it is fine margins, as we keep saying in these games. And I think as well, the fact that it is 5 clean sheets in our last 6 games, that really gives you something to build on.
Yeah.
It's so important to be. Look, you can't be 100% secure at the back. It's not possible.
No.
But if you can get into the habit of keeping clean sheets, and you can then increase your attacking efficiency, you give yourself a much better chance of winning games.
And as you say, it's coming in a period where we are kind of being more adventurous going forward. It's so interesting, the correlation between those two things. And I would venture probably not coincidental. I mean, were there any individual performances that stood out to you particularly in this game? It was quite a good collective performance. I think everybody played pretty well from an Arsenal point of view.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I think, Partey obviously was below par.
Yeah.
I think Xhaka had a kind of quietly underrated game in the sense that when Partey wasn't quite at his most secure, Xhaka absolutely was. Certainly in possession, he was...
His passing was immaculate, yeah.
Yeah, I think he misplaced one pass in the entire game.
I was watching, so I was on the left-hand side of Arsenal in the first half. And It was really interesting watching Xhaka, who was kind of the left-sided central midfield player, who... He's not someone I necessarily associate with this, but of all the players on the pitch, it was his head that was swivelling the most, particularly out of possession. And he was watching Bruno Fernandes really keenly. And, it doesn't mean that he followed him everywhere. Like he would pass him over sometimes to Cedric, sometimes to Partey. But he knew where he was at every point. And he also had half an eye on Cedric Suarez as well, who's obviously, he's playing at left back, but not necessarily the most comfortable at left back. And he provided him a bit of support. And it was, you could see off the ball, there was a conscientiousness to his play that I think even his biggest fans have to admit is not maybe always there. I thought it was a really good performance from him, and he's hit a bit of good form. I also thought Nicolas Pepe had, although he didn't have the finishing touch, I thought he had a good game.
I think Arteta would be really encouraged by the Pepe performance, because there were moments where, look, he didn't quite find the target, but there was another shot, wasn't there, where, what did Roy Keane call them? Leg overs.
Yeah.
He said, how many leg overs he's had. But anyway, step overs, he had about 3 or 4 there, and shot wide. But I think what Arteta will be pleased about is the discipline in his performance. I think I've got a question about Pepe, so we'll wait on him, but I agree with you. I think he was good. Beyond that, I think it was just solid collectively from pretty much everybody on the pitch. So
yeah, centre halves. I mean, Rob Holding's in a good vein of form, I think.
He had 10 clearances. I mean, there's I don't know if it's just me noticing it because it's happening a lot, or if it's just something I'm noticing. But like from corners, he seems to be really. He's the guy who's being told to go attack the ball.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll tell you a funny thing about Rob Holding is that I don't think he's ever scored a goal for Arsenal.
He has. He has.
Has he?
Yeah.
Okay. Forgive me.
Scored maybe, I don't know how many, but he's definitely scored. He scored 1 in Europe, and he's definitely scored 1 in Premier League. I'll look it up while you're talking. Go on.
But what I was going to say is that I think he's really strong in the air defensively and on defensive set pieces, but I don't feel like he provides enough threat for someone who's that good in the air at the other end of the pitch. And I know that's not his primary job, but it does seem, if you think about someone like Mustafi, for example, who's about 6 inches shorter, they seem a lot more dangerous. I wonder if that's something he could bring to his game just to add another dimension to
I think he has scored a few, and he has had a couple of moments where he's been a threat from set pieces of late. Like there've been a couple where he just hasn't quite got the power on the header or anything else. He scored 2 goals for Arsenal.
Okay. I don't think he scored a league goal. That must have been what I was thinking of.
1 in the EFL Cup in season 19-20 and 1 in the Europa League in season 17-18. So yeah, he's not somebody who has scored consistently or anything like that. Not like a Koscielny or anything like it. But, he's been here a long time and he's only just hit 100 appearances. So time for him to improve on that. So
yeah, it's just a thing that occurred to me during the game. He's 6 foot plus and his aerial stats are brilliant at one end of the pitch. And, we're not really producing enough from our offensive set pieces. I wonder if there's someone who could work with him on that. I think it would kind of round him out. But yeah, I think he's having a really consistent season, and ultimately consistency is, that's the indicator that you want from a centre half, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, defensively, I think he's been really strong. I think sometimes when he has time to think, it's not quite as good as you would like it to be, just some of the decisions. Do you mean on the ball? Yeah, I mean on the ball, or maybe, like when a corner comes in, it's not, you attack the corner, you attack the ball, you mark your man, and you deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. I think sometimes when there are defensive situations that develop in front of him, I'm not 100% sure that he gets it right enough. And that could be something that improves. And maybe I'm nitpicking because I do think he's been pretty consistent, and I'm not trying to talk him down or anything like that. But I just, there have been a couple of times lately where I just think, maybe it'll come with more experience and more consistency in his play.
Yeah, I don't mean to say at all that I think he's been exceptional. No. I don't think that's the case.
No, I know what you mean.
He's just not making big errors regularly, and for an Arsenal centre-half, that's a breath of fresh air.
Sure is. Okay, well, look, I think we've done the game, we've done the performance, and we've done the individuals. We've got some questions and stuff like that. So why don't we take a little break here, and then we will come back with all of those in part 2 right after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 where we answer questions that you sent to us on Twitter at Gunnerblog and at Arseblog. Also on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. So, yeah. Do you want to go first or will I go first? How do you feel?
I'll go first if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
I'll take the initiative. This is from Tom, the vacuous tweeter, who's at vacuous Tom on Twitter. And they ask, do Arsenal offer David Luiz another year extension in the summer after what has been a very solid few months of form from him? Especially when you consider we're getting rid of Mustafi, Socrates, Kolasinac, etc. Or is it thank you and goodbye?
Thank you and goodbye. That's what I think. I mean, that would be my thinking on it. I mean, I have to say, I thought, that moment apart where he got turned by Bruno Fernandes, I thought Luiz was good. I thought he led the defence well. His experience was important.
Were you surprised that he started ahead of Gabriel?
Not necessarily, because I thought he was low-level bad against Southampton, Luiz.
It was one of the games where he's just not really concentrating.
Yeah. And, when a guy gets to that age, you sort of wonder, okay, he's been there, done that, worn all the T-shirts. Yeah. There's a point where you look at a player and you think like, he's kind of going through the motions here. Or, there are times, when you look at Luiz and you think like, he sort of thinks, this is, I can just go through the motions a little bit here. I can
I'm
just
too
sort
old for this shit.
Yeah, I'm too old. This game, I can't really be arsed with this. And then there are times you look at him, and yesterday, he was really up for it. He really was up for it. He had that charge forward, didn't he? And he had a shot over the bar. I mean, they let him take another free kick. What is going? Just stop.
Of our 17 attempts on goal, he had 4. Which is kind of crazy. He matched Pepe.
Is that real?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He probably led us for like through balls and stuff as well. You know what he's like.
Yeah.
But I remember this fixture last season, where Arteta got his first win and I think he was man of the match in it. And when the big games come around, it goes one of two ways. He either completely implodes or he's pretty good. And this was one of the pretty good ones.
That's what I was saying beforehand. Before the game, I was writing that I was a little bit worried about David Luiz, but I'm also aware that he is a guy who, because of his experience and because of how, he's been around the block so many times, that when he does have a bad game, like I think he did against Southampton, he's just able to put it in a box and put it away on the shelf, marked David Luiz bad games.
Confidence isn't a problem, I don't think, for David Luiz.
I don't think it is. I don't think he gets rattled when he has a bad performance. So I wasn't that surprised that he started. I mean, I think he's probably one that we're going to have to manage when you're 33. Can you do, 2 games in quick succession? Like, will he start against Wolves? I don't quite know. That's something I'm sure that would be led by physicality. But I just think that, he's going to be what age?
He'll be 34 in April. So he'll be 34 for the majority of next season.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a manager who's talked about wanting a more streamlined squad. And he's got Gabriel to play on the left side of the defence, and he's got Pablo Mari to play on the left side of the defence. The right-hand side, he's got Rob Holding. I've got a question about William Saliba now in a moment. In an ideal world, those are your right-sided centre-halves next season. You've got 4 central defenders, and maybe you need one more, do you? I don't quite know. But, he's on big money. He's on big money as well, David Luiz.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you want a 4th or 5th choice centre-half, he's not the cheapest way to fill that spot in your squad.
No. And take with a gigantic pinch of salt the stories about, taking a pay reduction and those kind of things.
Do you think? So I'm inclined to agree with you. I think it probably should be thank you and goodbye.
It's a natural way of ending it, isn't it?
He's done the job for 2 years. I think he's been pretty decent, really, across those 2 years. Some aberrations aside, but do you think Mikel Arteta sees it that way? Do you think he'll consider giving him a new deal?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't get inside his head on this one. I think he sees him certainly in terms of this season as a valuable member of the squad. He still picks him. I think the influence he has around the training ground still appears to be positive.
Yeah.
But I do feel like if you are a club that is looking to rebuild your squad, do you invest in a 34-year-old central defender when you've got 2 younger guys to play in exactly the same position? Are they going to give you the passing range of David Luiz? Probably not. But is that as important when you've got a team that has a functioning midfield and also a functioning attacking midfield,
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, Luiz is on record, I think, as well, as saying he wants to go and play at Benfica before he hangs up his boots. All those sorts of things are negotiable if the right sort of money's on the table. But I do think it probably will be kind of a natural parting of the ways. I wouldn't rule out, if David Luiz does retire in a couple of years' time and Mikel Arteta's still there, I wouldn't rule out a post-playing role at the club, because I do think Arteta thinks that highly of him, sort of as a personality. But yeah, I struggle to sort of justify a new contract. Like you say, in an ideal world, he's not your first choice centre-half next season, and given that, there are probably much cheaper alternatives from a salary perspective.
Unless he's willing to take a really significant pay cut.
Yeah,
it's the only way. But apart from that, I think, it's thank you and goodbye, at the natural point. I think had COVID and the pandemic and all the associated difficulties not happened this summer, I think he would have been gone anyway.
Do you?
Well, they weren't going to take up his option. And then all of a sudden they were, because it was the least complicated thing to do. So.
I think they would have taken it up were it not for COVID, if you see what I mean. I think that the financial implications of COVID is what made them think.
Okay, maybe so.
Maybe let's not do this. Yeah. But yeah, I think he always thought, certainly he always thought he'd be here for 2 years. But listen, I think it's good that we're talking about him in a positive light, but I don't think that means we've got to start handing out new contracts to everyone.
Okay. Associated with this, from the Discord, Cluck the Rotisserie Chicken asks, how bad do you reckon the Saliba situation is? The interview at Arseblog News was heartbreaking. Are we cutting our losses and selling him in the summer, or do you think it's possible to rebuild the relationship?
Yeah, let's get these quotes up. I don't know who they were with.
TF1.
TF1, right. Translation from Get France Football News. Honestly, if you told me a year ago, I honestly would not have believed you. I really, really, really didn't think that I'd be transferred for 30 million euros, and to think that I would arrive where people were expecting a lot from me and the fans were excited about me, and you find yourself in the reserves, play 0-0 in the Europa League or the league. I was in the squad once in the League Cup. It hurt me, it affected me. I don't think I left too early. When you feel ready, you have to go. I don't think I left too early. These things happen. I believe in myself. I guess when he says I don't think I left too early,
it means to join Arsenal. Yeah,
he means to join Arsenal, but I'm sure he means it about leaving as well. He left too late in terms of getting out on loan. It doesn't read well, does it?
No.
And he's picked up some really positive reviews in France, I have to say. I've been keeping an eye on him out there, and he
seems to be doing well. Yeah,
playing well and sort of being a bit of a leader in a very youthful Nice defence. I don't know how difficult it will be to repair the fault lines that I think pretty clearly are there between the player and the club. I mean, I don't think you talk like that publicly unless you're pretty pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him for being pissed off. I mean, I think we avoid all of this if we sort out his paperwork and send him on loan. It's a lot better situation. Yeah, it's not ideal, and maybe he harbors some resentment for it. But what he doesn't do is miss whatever it is, 3-4 months of football, first team football. So I think that for me is the big issue. The big issue was just fucking up and wasting those months of his career. So I wonder, he might, if he were sent out on loan again, if he'd gone back to Saint Etienne, for example, he might have been there and he might have thought, well, do they fancy me? Do they not? Maybe I'm pissed off, but I'm at my club. I'll play a season, and yeah, I think what he's really annoyed about is the fact that he just was surplus to requirements in so many ways. And that was the fault of the club. And I can understand why he's really cheesed off. I mean, I don't think it's irreparable or anything like that. I don't think so. But I can really understand why he's unhappy. Like, I mean, I've said this, and I said this more than once. I can also understand why there was a reluctance to be dependent, or not be dependent's the wrong word. I can understand why a football manager might think a 19-year-old central defender is not ready. I don't think that's an extraordinary situation. I don't think it's uncommon. There are very few 19-year-olds playing regularly in the Premier League. And I know that one of them, of course, is his former teammate at Saint Etienne. But I think those are the exceptions rather than the rule. Yeah. So I can see that side of it. But I think if you have decided that, and I think they had pretty much decided that quickly about Saliba.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah? This wasn't a case that it was like, it's like nearly the end of the transfer window. We're not quite sure. I think they knew themselves that they felt he wasn't ready. I'm not saying whether he was ready or not ready. I think they had made a decision about his readiness.
Certainly,
and
certainly not to be first choice. No.
Exactly. And they still let it run and run and run. And it was that for me is the big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I agree it's probably something that can be repaired, but there is work to be done there. And I wonder how much of that is kind of between the manager and the player, Ultimately, Saliba's going to feel like Arteta didn't really have sufficient faith in him. And I don't think he's someone, as he makes clear in that interview, who thinks of himself as not ready. And that's what you want from a young player. You want a young player to think, I want to play right now. Well,
there was nobody who watched French football regularly who thought he wasn't at least ready for the Europa League, particularly when you get a group like the group we got. And it's not to relitigate this whole situation again, but, that's a missed opportunity from an Arsenal perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Hasn't been managed well. No,
hasn't been managed well. Really, really hope it can be repaired. It's a substantial investment. Arsenal have got to, people saying, I wonder if he'll stay at Nice. Nice aren't going to give us 30 million euros for him.
No.
You know what I mean? However well he does in the second half of this season. So we have to hope. I mean, Nice at the moment are in talks, I think, with Barcelona to sign a centre-half called Todibo. And the way that's being reported in France is he's being signed loan with an option to buy, partly because they're not sure if they're going to be able to keep Saliba for a second season. There's the way it's been reported in France. They hope that he will have an 18-month loan spell there.
Yeah, you know what though? I mean, here's the way I look at this situation. Shit can happen at football clubs, and shit happens between people, and things don't go the way you expect, and everything else.
Yeah.
But if you were to say, what do Arsenal need to do in the transfer market this summer when it comes to, the centre of defence? Get a young, promising central defender in to play on the right-hand side to compete with and provide cover for Rob Holding, make that competition. Saliba is exactly the player that you would want the club to go out and buy. We've already gone out and bought him.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. We've invested 30 million euros in a player who hasn't played for us for 2 years. I think it is absolutely incumbent on Mikel Arteta to make this work, or at least to give it a try. This is a hugely talented young player, a player of real potential, who, if any other club in the Premier League was signing, we'd look at and go, well, why didn't we do that? And we have him, and we haven't played him. So I think one of the jobs that Mikel Arteta has is to make it work. That's literally your job as coach. If you're willing... I made this joke with Luiz on the preview pod that pretty much every situation that you can envisage at Arsenal in some way can be brought back to Willian. But if you're willing and able to say, well, we have to support Willian and we have to give him time, or we have to give him, the opportunity to play his way through this bad run of form, why can't you do the same for a 19-year-old central defender who is, so highly thought of around European football? Why can't you do that? You have to do that. That's what he has to do next season. I think it'd be a black mark on him if we get to the summer, or if we get to next season and Saliba is still not in the plans, even as, backup or whatever it might be. He has to make this, he has to make the club's investment. It's, whatever the rights and wrongs of it or anything else at this point, the reality is that we've paid £30 million for a player who won't play for us for 2 years. That's not good enough. So we have to extract value in the next 3 years, and hopefully longer than that if he can become a really good player for us.
I agree.
So there you go.
So Henrik Ho Jakobsen says, hi guys, how do you feel about Ainsley Maitland-Niles maybe going on loan to Leicester with an option to buy? David Ornstein reported that earlier today. Is it a good idea to make a rival stronger at this point, or should Arsenal make this move happen to get some money potentially ready for the summer?
I'm a little bit torn on this one, in that if we're willing to let Ainsley Maitland-Niles go, and a club like Leicester is interested in him and they're willing to put money down on the table, then you're sort of obliged to do the deal. If you don't want the player anymore, you don't see a role for him, and there's good money on offer from, a team like Leicester, the fact that they're our rival is an indictment on us. You know what I mean? I'm not taking anything away from Leicester because they're a good team, but
well, they're a fair bit above us as well.
who isn't potentially a rival to us anymore?
Yeah.
This is not like 10 years ago where you could say, well, yeah, we could sell a player to Leicester, or we're so ensconced in the top four that, it doesn't really make any difference where we sell our young talent.
No, we're sandwiched in between Aston Villa and Southampton.
Yeah.
I mean, Southampton are one of the other possible destinations for Maitland-Niles, and they're much closer to us.
So,
directly.
So I don't really have an issue with him going to Southampton. So on that basis, should I be worried about him going to Leicester? I think it depends on the offer. Really. It depends on the offer. Like, how much is it? Or if...
Well, I think in the first instance, all of these offers are loans,
Yeah.
I think. But I think that's partly the economic situation we're in.
Okay.
People probably thinking.
I wouldn't send him on loan to Leicester.
Right.
Unless there was an offer. Unless there was a deal to be done in the summer. Yeah. I just feel like
I think I'm right in thinking that it was reported as a loan with an option for Leicester.
Give me an obligation and let's talk.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, or a big loan fee, a big loan fee that, sort of obliges them to complete it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It is a difficult one, isn't it? Because if we're
player
happy enough
wants
for
to
him
go and play football. Player wants to go and play football and be in the Euro 2020 squad, which he's got a chance of doing because he's so versatile. But his opportunities at Arsenal clearly are going to be limited. I mean, I think he's pretty clearly behind Cedric in the pecking order right now. Yeah,
I mean at left back, but I mean we have. Let me just see if I could find this question here. Yeah, from Adam Sykes, who's at I am Adam Sykes on Twitter. He said, if Maitland-Niles, Nelson and Willock go out on loan, do we risk going from an inflated squad to one that is short in terms of numbers? Like, what happens if, Bellerin or Tierney or even Cedric gets an injury and you're left with 3 fullback options? Maitland-Niles at least gives us cover in that regard.
Yes, he does. But then Callum Chambers exists, doesn't he? I mean, he is a guy who can play fullback.
He can, but he shouldn't. Do you know what I mean?
No,
I'm not
being
pretty
good last season.
Yeah,
I think
he was okay, but I don't like where has Callum Chambers been exposed in his career? It's been at right back, properly exposed. So
yeah, but we're talking about him as a third choice right back. Like
But he might be first choice right back if, Tierney is injured and Bellerin is injured and Cedric has to play left back and,
Yeah. But I mean, our squad, I still think our squad's too big. And if there's no future for Maitland-Niles and there's an opportunity to recoup money on him and they feel that this loan is either going to ensure that happens in the summer or amplify what we might make for him in the summer, I kind of have to make my peace with that. I don't think we'd miss Willock or Nelson right now. I really don't.
Well, certainly Nelson has not been in the squad, yeah.
Nelson's not been in the squad. If you think about it, I think Odegaard's really competing, isn't he? He's going to take the minutes Willock would have got. And Smith Rowe has really superseded Willock in that part of the pitch. I don't worry about those two. The Maitland-Niles one is more of a concern. And loaning him without any kind of option would feel a bit like, if we get a couple of injuries, that will feel dumb, right? I mean, there is also the registration point. We talked about this on the last podcast. I mean, maybe they're just not going to register Renarsson, but one of the non-EU players still has to go. I found it interesting that Renarsson was on the bench.
Yeah, Ryan had a little injury apparently. So
did he?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
I mean, I wonder. Yeah, a sort of last hurrah before they have to submit the registration docs on January. On Monday.
When do they have to do it? Is it on Tuesday? I guess
maybe Tuesday morning. Yeah.
Squad.
But. On the Maitland-Niles one, I really go back and forth. I mean, clearly, ultimately, the manager doesn't have sufficient faith in him. And so he probably should go if there is interest. It's just that thing of I'm not really bothered about strengthening a rival. I don't even necessarily know if Maitland-Niles, where does he start in that Leicester team?
Don't know. There was some talk about him playing in midfield.
They've had a few injuries in midfield, and a couple of players might leave. Chowdhury might go, but yeah, I kind of feel
like I said, show me the money. If Leicester want him, show us the money.
Well, let's put it like this: in the summer, the Wolves offer was under £20 million. Do you think that if that sort of money, I don't know, between 15 and 20 million was on the table now, would you be more inclined to accept it?
I think you'd be more inclined to accept it now, wouldn't you? But yeah, I mean, it's one of those where he could go on loan, have a good spell and increase his value as well. So, I mean, he's not going to get the playing, doesn't look like he's going to get the playing time he wants at Arsenal. So yeah.
What do you think about Cedric as the kind of backup to Tierney on that side? What did you make of his performance against United as well?
I thought he was okay, yeah. I thought he was fine. Yeah. We did have a question here, and it was like, it's from Anve, who's at Anve Wallavalkar on Twitter. He says, hello, lads. Do you expect any deadline day signings by us? If there is one, what position would you guys want it to be? And I kind of feel like I wouldn't mind a left back. Because
any names out there that you think that would make sense? Or
there was some talk about the Crystal Palace guy, Van Aanholt.
Expires end of the season.
And Ryan Bertrand as well. But these are guys who I'm looking at as, I'm looking at them as loan deals until the end of the season, given their age profiles, not guys we should be giving contracts to.
If only we'd signed Layvin Kazawa. Remember that. But the heady days of Layvin Kazawa.
I mean, are you expecting any incoming business?
I'm not. I think that it's really difficult. To be honest, if you want a left back, they probably need to be homegrown at this point, which adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing. Obviously, Ryan Bertrand and I think Van Aanholt as well, because he came through the academy at Chelsea. They would tick that box. So they might be one to keep an eye on. But I'm not optimistic, no. I think Cedric, having had a couple of sort of solid games at left back, will assuage that somewhat. And I wonder if...
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been fine, but I'm still just kind of cautious about, a right-footed player at left back for any extended period. So...
We shall see. I mean, yeah, we shall see. I don't...
Ooh.
What's happened?
Salah just scored an amazing goal.
I just had a text from my mate Adam. I haven't seen the goal, and it just says Salah is almost a one-trick pony. The trick is the best trick possible.
It's the Arjen Robben trick. It's like he's going to come back on his left foot and curl it. I know he's going to do this, but I still can't stop him. So,
yeah. If only Nicolas Pepe's only half a yard from sort of getting that right.
Pepe just needs a little more practice on this trick. Yeah.
I do wonder if Salah sort of is an interesting model for Pepe. I know Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast talks about this a lot. This idea that Pepe's not a winger, he's a forward.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and the same is true of Salah, right? He's not a winger, and he doesn't make any pretense of playing as a winger anymore. He often plays as a kind of centre forward. I just wonder if the same applies to Pepe, and that actually the key to unlocking him is in sort of liberating him from some of the responsibilities associated with the position he nominally plays.
Pretty much all of his best moments come when he gets into central areas. You know what I mean? In the box or in central areas. I mean, the only goal I can really think of is that Sheffield United goal where he picked the ball up, ran down the left, ran into the box, and I'm not even sure you could really classify that as like old school winger play. It was pick it up, drive into the box and score.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had a question here about Pepe actually. So we're leaving the transfer deadline day to one side. We think there's going to be no incomings and potentially some departures. I mean,
Newcastle are looking at Joe Willock, it seems, from the reports.
Do we know if anyone's looking at Reece Nelson or if there's any possibility?
If they're not, I feel really sorry for Reece Nelson because he should have gone on loan in the summer. It's not quite a Saliba case because he had the Europa League games, but there's not enough minutes for him here, and he is,
he's going to stagnate.
Yeah. So he should be hammering down doors at Premier League clubs or even high-level Championship clubs or European clubs. He needs to play. He desperately needs to play.
100%.
I think that's it. I don't think... Mustafi, I suppose.
Mustafi to Liverpool. Do you see it? Is it going to happen? What do you think?
I mean,
I saw a story like Mustafi could go to Liverpool if he can agree to terminate his contract with Arsenal, and I'm thinking, well, fuck that. Why should we do Liverpool a favour? I'm all for like, if Mustafi wants to go and play
I'd be looking at them
abroad
saying,
or
well,
whatever.
you paid 80 million for one centre half, so what have you got for us?
Yeah, exactly. And we paid 35 million for this guy. We need a few quid back. So
they might be like, we gave you 42 million for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. But I mean,
swings and roundabouts, mate.
I think, if he goes to Liverpool after being linked with Barcelona for the last 12 months,
it would
the man's
be
agent deserves a knighthood. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be honest, on the sort of like Maitland-Niles going to a rival, Maitland-Niles going to a Southampton or a Leicester, I would argue, affects us a lot more than Mustafi going to a Liverpool. He can if he likes. I mean, good luck to him. But we're not competing directly with them right now.
No.
So I would, I wouldn't be terminating the deal. I wouldn't be paying him off so he can join Liverpool. I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly.
In the same way that Arsenal ultimately, that's one of the interesting things about the Ozil situation. Arsenal were in negotiations with Ozil to terminate, and he was going to sign for Fenerbahce, and everybody knew it. And Arsenal said, well, we can't just pay you to go to join another club. If Fenerbahce involved, there needs to be a transfer. And that's where it changed from being a termination to a transfer with, some potential clauses written in where if, I don't know, Fenerbahce win the Champions League or something, Arsenal will get some money. It's sort of a question of saving face, I guess. But you can't just... I don't think Arsenal could be seen to do that for Mustafi.
No. I mean, I did laugh at the thing that he's not even taking a wage at Fenerbahce for 6 months. It's like, well, that's because we fucking paid him all his wages, basically.
Yeah. And most of his wages, I don't think will come from Fenerbahce. I think they're coming from external investors. I think Fenerbahce they've got a crowdfunding platform. I mean, they
GoFundMe.
A lot of football clubs.
GoFundMe.football.
Their financial situation is a bit dire. They're not quite Barcelona, though. I mean, that is...
Holy shit. I mean, yeah. It's ripe for
we should be looking for the Barcelona fire sale, really.
Messi?
Yeah, I'll take Messi.
Did you see his wages?
Could he do a job at left back?
Yeah, he could easily slot in there for sure. Just don't ask him to overlap too much. It'll be fine. Here's a question from Ian Wright. Not that Ian Wright. A different Ian Wright, who's at IHWright on Twitter.
Yeah.
Who says, it's only been a couple of encouraging performances, but are there signs that Pepe is starting to get it in terms of the tactical and defensive aspects that he's been lacking? And should the idea of moving him on be revisited? He's still obviously massively talented, says Ian.
Yeah, always been talented. Always been talented. Very few people would deny that. I had a question from Shane Desmond who said, do you think Pepe gives us an extra physical dimension when we're forced to go long? I have to say, one thing I did not predict was Nicolas Pepe taking on the Bakary Sagna role of being the guy who we aim long goal kicks at.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's doing pretty well at that. I never saw that coming. Interesting that he did so well and played from the right. I mean, after a game where he'd looked pretty good on the left, it kind of poses an interesting question as to what you would do if you had both him and Bukayo Saka available, which we may well do.
Well, I think were Saka available, Pepe would have started on the left.
Yeah, so do I.
In the United game. So,
and I wonder if he would go back there, just because I just think Saka's been so good. And I also think actually that, especially if Tierney doesn't make it, if you've got a right footer at left back, having a left footer in front of them just gives you a natural bit of balance. You want one left footed player on that side to give you width. But I mean, it doesn't feel like long ago that we were really lamenting the Pepe situation. But I think he deserves a lot of credit. I do think that the physical aspect is somewhere he's really improved, and his defensive numbers appear a lot better in this very recent run of form than they were prior.
What's the difference between him getting it now and him appearing to get it towards the end of last season, when his performances looked to be quite more in tune, certainly with what Mikel Arteta was looking for from him? You think about the FA Cup final, as complete a performance from Nicolas Pepe as we've seen. Even if he didn't score on the day, I think he was arguably our best player. I know Aubameyang got the 2 goals. Hard to look beyond the 2 goals. You know what I mean? But
exactly,
like in terms of all-round performance.
Yeah, I think the difference is that the team's at a slightly different point in their evolution, and they might be at a point which is more suited to Pepe. As someone pointed out in one of our questions, I think last week or the week before, has he had a run to play with a number 10 consistently? He might get that right now. He's got players who offer him some interesting combinations that, he hasn't always had great partnerships in this team.
Yeah.
Maybe he can develop those with whoever it might be, Smith Rowe or Lacazette or Tierney or Saka. Actually his most promising partnership last season was with Aubameyang. It felt like they had a good understanding at times, and Arsenal might have a kind of surplus of options in those wide areas soon. If you get Martinelli, you've got Aubameyang potentially coming back, Saka coming back, Pepe to consider as well. Not Willian, obviously, but in terms of the others, Smith Rowe. If Odegaard starts playing centrally, Smith Rowe becomes an option in wide areas potentially. There's a lot you could do, but I think Pepe at least has made himself part of the conversation, and he was Arsenal's most dangerous player against Manchester United. I know Lacazette hit the bar, but if anybody was going to score, it really felt like it was going to be Pepe, and that's quite often the case. Even when he doesn't play that well. So it is tempting, certainly, to persist with him. What do you think?
I think there have been encouraging signs in the last performances, and like I said earlier, I think Arteta will have been encouraged by, again, how all-round his performance was. I think Pepe did good things at both ends of the pitch. I think he was switched on throughout, and I think that's something that maybe Arteta has been cautious about or worried about. So, and there were a couple of moments where, like I said, the width of a goalpost, and he could have been the goal scorer, could have been the match winner. So, yeah, I think there have been encouraging signs. I hope he gets a run. Why not?
I think it's telling that I was trying to check, how long did he actually stay on the field? 90 minutes. He played the full game. Not too many times you would say that he has done that in an Arsenal shirt, actually, that he's been left on from the very start until the very end. And under Arteta, I feel like he's often a guy who, will get hooked. And the fact that he didn't, I think, is promising. I still think if the quartet of Smith Rowe, Saka, Lacazette, Aubameyang are available, I think that's what Arteta will pick. But I think Willian's probably... Willian. Getting ahead of myself. I think Pepe, he's close. He's close, and he's the next name that you'd have there, definitely. And I still think that there's an interesting discussion about the balance to be struck. As good as Lacazette has been, is there a way to make it work with Aubameyang through the middle?
Salah just scored again, by the way, just so you know.
Let me guess. Cut inside.
Yeah. No, well, not really. A break, and nice finish. But,
there's something in... I really do think that he's a very different player. But, like, a guy who arrived in England with Chelsea and people thought he was a winger, and really what he is someone you want to be putting through in on goal, who wants to score goals. And Salah has completely given up the pretense of wanting to do anything else but score goals. And actually, he's just played into his sort of superpower. And I think if you think about Pepe, all right, he's a brilliant dribbler, but I think composed finishing is actually something that he really, really does have. I don't know. I have hope again. Yeah, for him.
Yeah.
He'll be gone in 2 weeks' time, and then he'll be back. Here's a question.
Yeah.
From Tonight, we're all 98 vol on the Discord, and they say, where would you rank Leno as a goalkeeper in the Premier League?
Out of 20. Because I have to think of all the other goalkeepers.
Yeah, I guess you do. But I suppose another way of asking it is, how good is Leno? I think he's been...
I think he's been really excellent. I think he's been excellent. I know there was that wobble when Emi Martinez left, and we were all, sad about that. But when Bernd Leno got injured against Brighton last season, we were all fearing the worst, to the point where we were talking, everybody pretty much was talking about having to sign a goalkeeper, because we did not know that Emi Martinez was going to do what he did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think he's put to bed any sort of like, we should have kept Martinez issues beyond people's own personal preferences, which is absolutely fine. There are some people who prefer Emi Martinez. Absolutely fine.
He's a very good goalkeeper as well.
Course,
and
exactly.
He's having a fantastic season.
Yeah, but I don't think that anybody can really complain about what Leno is doing this season or has done this season. We have the joint second best defensive record in the league in terms of goals conceded.
Yeah.
He makes fantastic saves on a consistent basis. I don't know really what more people want from a goalkeeper.
I agree. And I actually think as a fan base, maybe we underrate Leno, because when I speak to fans of other clubs about that conversation of who are the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, or journalists who cover other clubs, his name is always in there. No, it's always in top 5, if not sometimes top 3. And that's pretty impressive. I mean, for a club who, are not currently a top 6 club, I definitely think we have a top 6 goalkeeper.
Yep, I think that's absolutely fair. Let's do a couple of quick ones before we go.
Yeah.
We have one from the Discord here who says, it's from Brownlow03, who says, what do you make of Lacazette's durability / fitness recently? He looks so much fitter than he used to. He never used to last the full 90, but now he's going on until the end, apart from when he gets taken off. And I've got a question about that now in a second as well. And also Sundaram, who's at Gooner in Boston, says, considering Lacazette's performances, do you think it's appropriate to give him an extension to his contract, or should we look to sell him in the summer?
Yeah, that's going to be a debate. I think Arsenal need a centre forward who can do some of the things Lacazette can do, and I think that should be really high on the list for summer transfer targets. And I think if Arsenal can sell Lacazette this summer, I think they should do, because I think he's done well, but I'm not convinced that. I think there are people to whom this is more naturally their game than it is him. And I think we could do with like a pivotal centre forward who offers a real variety, a different type of striker to Aubameyang, and who could be that guy for the next 5 years. And I think that, Martinelli and Nketiah, sure, Balogun, these guys may come and be centre forwards in the future, but I think we need like a guy in his mid-20s who can sort of provide that option straight away. Yeah. That's what I think. What do you think?
I think, I'm really pleased that he's doing well. He was... he went through a period where his game wasn't great, and he was open to criticism for that, and he deserves a lot of praise for the way he's been playing. I thought, he had a tough job against 2 brutish central defenders against United, but he held it up well. He was strong. He hit the bar, almost scored. There was that moment with Martinelli that we mentioned, but I think that's, I'm not sure that's his game anyway, really, that creative element in those kind of positions. I know he has combined well with some of the others. But I think the upside of Lacazette doing well in this period of the season, leaving aside what it means for us on the pitch, which is obviously the most important thing, is that come the summer, there are going to be teams out there that will look at him and say, yeah, we'll pay you some money for him. And with a year left on his contract, we can't give another 30-year-old a long-term contract. I don't think a 30-year-old, as much as people might talk about it and say, well, why don't we just give him a 1-year extension? I don't think that's what 30-year-old players want. They want that bit of security, at that age, to know they're going to be at a club. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the ideal scenario is that he plays well, scores goals, helps us win games, and then we say thanks. And we sell him and we invest in another striker. So
yeah, I agree with that. I really do, and I think He's done really well. I do actually harbour concerns still about his physicality. Like, he can't play all these games, I don't think. Or I think we'll end up seeing a very different Lacazette.
I think that's fair as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And Arsenal need to kind of figure that out.
But I do think there's a bit more zip about him. He's a little bit sharper than he used to be.
Yeah, I don't know if he's pain-free or if he was carrying something.
Yeah, exactly. It could be that.
But he looks sharper. But yeah, if he was to start every game in this run that we've got coming up this month, I think that would soon change. So that will be an interesting thing for Arteta to consider. Okay,
final one, and this may have a Lacazette element as well. It comes again from the Discord. Where is it? I had it here. It's gone. Oh no, there it is. It comes from. I can edit this bit out if I want, because I'm the master.
Make them wait.
It comes from Booten Schlanks. And he says, do you think the dangerous moves employed by the two Harrys will be outlawed soon? Lacazette could have had some serious damage done, yet the referees don't seem to even consider this a foul. What will it take to get the rule changed? A broken neck? Should this be a straight red card? And obviously this is the issue where the backing in, you nudge a player in the air. And there was, to be fair, an incident involving Lacazette with Pogba, which I think was different, in terms of severity.
I've not seen that back, but I remember it in the moment. Yeah, it was similar.
It was not anywhere near as dangerous as the Maguire one on Lacazette. And obviously we've seen Harry Kane do it time and time and time again. He's actually injured himself doing it. So what goes around comes around.
There is some karma. There is some justice at work.
Motherfucker, as the Radiohead song goes.
Yeah, it's clearly a big problem. I think Tim Stillman had a sort of nice Twitter thread about it. I'm just flicking to see if I can find it, where he spoke about, here you go, backing into players in midair and risking serious injury, not even a card. Shoving defenders into onrushing goalkeepers or shoving them off the side of the pitch, risking serious injury, not even a card. Tickling someone's chin / Eskimo kiss, can't do that straight red. Football does have weird discrepancies on what it deems violent or dangerous, and that is something that desperately needs looking at. I mean, England captains, England centre forwards, operating under slightly different rules, feels like it's been a thing since as long as I can remember. And it maybe if it wasn't Harry Kane who was the main kind of guy going around doing this, maybe the reaction would be somewhat different and it would be cracked down on. But it does need to be cracked down on.
It should be a yellow card at least. Yeah. Automatic yellow card. I mean, people have spoken about this before, but in Aussie rules, which is a much more physical game than association football, that kind of offence is absolutely outlawed. What do they call it?
Well, it's like in rugby, how you can't hit someone who's airborne.
What do they call it? I think they've got a name for it in Aussie rules. Tunnelling, I think it's called. Okay. So, they're aware of that. So when a guy is in the air, you just cannot do what we see Premier League players do way too often. I mean, I think there was one a few weeks ago. Did it happen to Gabriel? Was it in the North London derby? I can't quite remember, but it was probably
Sounds
Kane.
Right.
It was probably
Sounds
Harry Kane,
right.
seeing as he's the one that does it the most. So.
It is really dangerous, and I hope it's something that's addressed. I mean, as with the Fernandes Xhaka incident in the first half, there are these odd discrepancies, and maybe that's inevitable because we're in the early stages of kind of technology being implemented. But they do need to iron things like that out and make sure they punish the right stuff.
Okay, look, we're going to leave it there for this evening because we've gone on quite long enough. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here on a Sunday with us as well. It's a strange schedule, so there's a preview podcast tomorrow for Patreon members. We're playing Wolves on Tuesday night. Fingers crossed we can get the result there. For now, though, we'll leave it there. James, thank you very much indeed, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.